Imagine the thrill of watching your favorite artist perform live, under the stars in an open-air setting, with a capacity of nearly 50,000.
Building a massive new temporary concert venue to bring live music to Toronto's North End. Good afternoon. We begin with a major announcement for music fans in the city. Live Nation Canada unveiling today its plan to build an open-air stadium on the site of the former Downsview airport lands.
It's being billed as a new destination to host some of the world's biggest artists. CTV's Beth McDonnell is live in North York with the details. Beth.
Sean and Michelle, this announcement took place in an airport hangar as these lands are on the verge of a major musical transformation. Have a look. Rogers Stadium is coming to these lands, an open-air concert venue set to host a growing number of acts coming to Toronto. It will host 50,000 people and is a partnership between Live Nation, Rogers, and the future community that's being developed here, YZD. It's a mixed-use development that will create new neighborhoods here with commercial and residential space over the next 30 years. Live Nation says the number of stadium acts touring is unprecedented, and it's making this investment so Toronto doesn't miss out on world-class acts. And today, the president of Live Nation Canada spoke about there's just something here in Toronto. So many musical acts, so much excitement and energy around music. One of the reasons this is coming, and Premier Ford also here today talking about what a boost this will be for tourism and the economy. Now, this plan to have this concert venue was being developed for some time. Today, they are finally releasing it. That they're very excited, and shows are expected to come here in June 2025. Michelle, Sean, back to you.
Thank you, Beth. To other news now. In a special meeting of the school board last night, TDSB trustees called for a review of the policies and procedures that allowed for the controversial field trip.
It comes as the school excursion continues to draw the ire of both parents and the province.
I once again apologize to students and families who were impacted.
An apology from the TDSB's acting director while providing an update on an excursion to a rally highlighting the plight of the Grassy Narrows First Nation. After video posted to social media showed students participating in a protest where slogans considered pro-Palestinian were chanted.
We too have concerns about what occurred in relation to this excursion and believe additional information is necessary to properly assess.
Students from 15 schools attended the board-approved excursion a week ago. Trustees now condemning the controversial field trip.
The hurt is profound, the humiliation of our children is unforgivable, and the work of restoring the broken trust between this board and the Jewish community is something that will need to be addressed.
The TDSB immediately launched an internal investigation, but revealed that is now suspended, with the Ministry of Education launching its own investigation.
It makes sense for us to not be interviewing the same people, collecting information. So this passes.
Trustees unanimously passing a motion to fully cooperate with the province's investigation.
It is my earnest hope that the motion represents the united consensus of the board and reflects a unanimous determination to earn back the trust of the public.
That includes a review of relevant existing policies and procedures.
If policies were not clear, then it'll actually result in policies becoming more clear. If any policies or any procedures or any professional standards were not followed, then obviously we will need to take action.
Families and advocates who have been demanding answers say it's a start
towards at least trying to understand the situation, the indoctrination of these students that are being brought upon them at these field trips. I hope they really take careful consideration in the near future to what can be stopped.
What happened tonight is good, but how much impact can it happen when we're this far down the road? We have hate incidents of all types skyrocketing in the board.
The board now directing schools not to participate in excursions that may involve protests and rallies, while the province's investigation is ongoing. Mike Walker, CTV News.
Still ahead, hundreds of police officers are remembering their fallen colleagues. We'll have more on the National Peace Officers Memorial Run coming up a little later on in the newscast.
Residents in Northwest Florida, as well as Georgia and the Carolinas, are preparing for Hurricane Helene amid warnings it could be a catastrophic storm. Helene has strengthened into a Category 2 storm and is quickly advancing across the Gulf of Mexico. There are warnings the storm's surge may be unsurvivable, and damaging winds, rain, and flash floods could be carried hundreds of miles inland. Helene is expected to be a major hurricane, a Category 3 or higher, when it makes landfall on Florida's northwestern coast this evening.
I hope that it doesn't really tear Tallahassee like it did last time. I hope when we come back, our house is still the same.
I needed to board them up because they will not withstand 110-mile-an-hour winds.
Several school districts and universities have already canceled classes ahead of the storm. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis says a lot depends on where exactly the storm makes landfall.
And we'll be keeping an eye on that. But here at home, a far different story. We are embarking on a lovely stretch of weather. The sunshine we've long been anticipating this week has now taken over the sky. Beautiful conditions for whatever you have planned on this Thursday. Jessica Smith is here with more. Jess.
We're, of course, watching Helene. It's not likely to come in contact at all with us here in Ontario. It is kind of tracking that way, but it will dissipate long before it reaches us. So we hold on to these sunny conditions and high pressure as we head through the end of the week and step in towards the weekend. It was a bit of a foggy start to the day. We saw a lot of that burn off, but it is beautiful out there now. We're sitting kind of in that low to mid-20 range for the most part, and the humidex is still kind of a factor, but we're not seeing it at too intensive a level thanks to a more northerly flow to the wind. As we head in towards the islands through Pearson, we're sitting around 21, 23, feeling into that mid-20 range, and we're kind of holding steady there as we head throughout the day in the GTA and really right across southern Ontario. A little more cloud cover will eventually push its way back in, but we're holding on to a fairly stable forecast as we kind of wrap up the month of September and head into October next week. Coming up, I'll have a full look at your long-range forecast. Right now, it's back to Sean and Michelle.
Thanks, Jess. A Toronto police officer accused of assault took the stand in his own defense today in Brampton.
He's accused of assaulting a young man who later died following a Kijiji deal gone bad. CTV's John Musselman is live at the courthouse in Brampton to bring us the very latest. John.
Well, Michelle, he is still on the stand right now. Constable Au is being cross-examined by the Crown. It's been often combative during his exchanges with the Crown prosecutor, but he continues to say that and testify in court that he did not use excessive force. Toronto Police Constable Calvin Au took the stand in his own defense on Wednesday. He denied using excessive force when he brought 19-year-old Chad Facey to the ground shortly after Facey sold a fake Apple Watch to Au's friend and fellow Toronto police officer Gurmak Benning. It happened back in April 2021 in Brampton. Both Toronto cops were off duty at the time. Au told the court he took Facey down after a brief pursuit. I'm thinking if he takes off, I don't have the energy to catch him. I decided to secure Facey on the ground. Defense lawyer Peter Browdy, how much force did you use? A reasonable amount. It's not like a football tackle. Did you see his face hit the ground? No, I did not see Facey's head or face hit the ground. The court heard that Constable Au outweighed Facey by more than 50 pounds when this happened. Facey's family says he showed obvious signs of medical distress when he returned home later that afternoon. His sister testified her brother was in and out of consciousness and he had a large bump on his forehead. He was taken to Brampton Civic Hospital. Facey died later that night. Under cross-examination by the Crown, Au testified he had no concerns that Facey was armed with any kind of weapon when he was chasing him through the Brampton neighborhood. They also got the $400 back from Facey when they caught up with him. The Crown suggested Au overreacted. Crown, both you and Benning were fooled by him. Constable Au, yes. I'm going to suggest you are angry that you got scammed. Constable Au, I don't agree. And testimony continues at this hour. Evidence is expected to conclude today. The Crown and the defense will make submissions next week. Reporting live from the Brampton Courthouse, I'm John Musselman. I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, John. Cross-examination of the woman who has accused Jacob Hogard of sexual assault is set to continue today in Northern Ontario. The complainant broke down in tears repeatedly on Tuesday as she detailed her allegations after she attended Hogard's band's concert and an after-party in Kirkland Lake 8 years ago. The defense and Crown have agreed that Hogard and the woman had a sexual encounter. The question is whether it was consensual. Hogard has pleaded not guilty.
The OPP believe a serious crash in Markham last week was caused by someone throwing a rock at a vehicle. 2 people suffered life-threatening injuries in the 2-vehicle crash at Highway 48 at Major Mackenzie late Friday night. Investigators believe a rock was deliberately thrown at the windshield of one vehicle by a person or from a passing vehicle, leading to this collision. They also say around 10:30 Friday night, 2 drivers suffered minor injuries when rocks struck windshields on Highway 48 north of Elgin Mills.
I do live right around the corner, and to hear that just now on the news really is not only heartbreaking but quite sad. What's going around in the city?
It's just unheard of. I've never heard of such things happening in the city of Markham, and I hope they can bring the people responsible to justice.
I would honestly hope that the people that did this would have something better to do. It's unfortunate that they're taking it out on members of the public, unsuspecting public who are just simply driving their vehicles around.
OPP have now released this surveillance video and dash cam footage as part of their investigation. They're trying to identify the vehicle, saying the driver and/or occupants may have information that could assist in the ongoing investigation. Please contact Aurora OPP or Crime Stoppers.
A crash in Scarborough involving an attempted vehicle theft has sent a woman to hospital. Police were called to the area of McCowan and the 401 around 11:30 last night. Officers say there was an attempted vehicle theft and then an assault between several people. A woman who was driving one of the vehicles and also involved in the crash has been taken into custody.
An annual run in memory of police officers killed in the line of duty is underway.
It's pretty amazing. It's hard to put into words because we have officers from all different ranks, but there's no rank on this run. We are all there for the same purpose. We have families of the fallen that run with us, the soul members, right? Survivors of law enforcement. That is huge because this is who we're doing it for. And I think it's the camaraderie is just, it's hard to put into words. It's pretty fantastic.
A ceremony was held at Queen's Park this morning. Hundreds of officers will run from Toronto to Ottawa, where a memorial service will be held on Parliament Hill. It is the 20th year for the National Peace Officers Memorial Run. This year, the names of 5 fallen officers are being added to a memorial honoring their service and sacrifice.
The Conservatives are planning to table another non-confidence motion in the House of Commons today. The Liberals survived yesterday's vote when the NDP and the Bloc Québécois did not support the motion, but there is now another challenge. The Bloc says it will work to bring down the government if the Liberals don't pass 2 of its bills by October 29th. It's unclear how the government plans to respond to the ultimatum.
Meanwhile, French President Emmanuel Macron has arrived on Parliament Hill. Macron was greeted by Prime Minister Trudeau prior to a formal meeting. Macron arrived at the nation's capital last night from New York and had dinner with Trudeau at Rideau Cottage. The French leader will later travel to Montreal, where he'll meet with Quebec dignitaries and visit the city's port. Macron last visited Canada in 2018 for a meeting of G7 leaders.
The mayor of New York City has been indicted on federal charges.
I will fight these injustices with every ounce of my strength and my spirit. If I'm charged, I know I am innocent.
Eric Adams is accused of taking bribes and illegal campaign funds from foreign sources. The U.S. Attorney's Office alleges Adams engaged in long-running corruption dating back nearly a decade. FBI agents entered the mayor's official residence and seized his phone early today, hours before the indictment was made public. Adams denies the allegations, saying he follows campaign rules and the law.
To the latest on the escalating conflict between Israel and Hezbollah. There are reports that more than 20 people, mostly Syrians, were killed in an overnight Israeli strike in eastern Lebanon. Lebanese officials say a building housing Syrian workers and their families was hit today, killing 23 people. If confirmed, this would be one of the deadliest single strikes in the intensified air campaign. Syrian security sources say more than 20,000 people have crossed from Lebanon into Syria since Monday's escalation. Israel is rejecting calls for a truce in the fighting in Lebanon and is preparing for a possible ground assault. The United States, Canada, and other allies are calling for an immediate 21-day ceasefire to provide space for diplomacy.
Against that backdrop, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was on his way to New York. He's expected to speak at the United Nations General Assembly Friday. Netanyahu says he has not yet given his response to the truce proposal and has instructed the army to keep fighting. Let's bring in CTV's Scott Hurst, who's standing by live with the latest on the seemingly escalating situation. Tell us more about the calls for a ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah.
Michelle, the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, is expected to meet with several world leaders while he is in New York on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly. As you mentioned, he's expected to speak tomorrow. And this all comes at a time, as you mentioned, where many Western nations are now calling for a renewed effort for de-escalation and calling for this specific 21-day ceasefire to allow for more diplomacy. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said his military will continue with full force, and we have heard him say they continue to do what's necessary to return Israeli citizens to their homes in the north. Hezbollah has not yet commented on this proposed ceasefire. So here's more of what we know, and I can read for you a short little bit of what this says. Canada has signed on, along with the U.S., European Union, France, and Germany. And it says, in part, it is time to conclude a diplomatic settlement that enables civilians on both sides of the border to return to their homes in safety. Diplomacy, however, cannot succeed amid an escalation of this conflict. And we have seen this conflict escalate over the last several days. Israel says it has struck more than 2,000 Hezbollah targets in Lebanon in these past couple of days and is preparing for that potential ground assault. However, the civilian death toll is also mounting. Lebanon's health ministry saying more than 600 people have been killed since Monday, and that includes nearly 150 women and children. And as we've been reporting yesterday as well, Michelle, that includes 2 Canadians who have been reported killed in some of the recent strikes.
Unfortunately, and speaking of Canadians, what's the latest on those who are still in the region? We know there's a large number of them.
There is upwards of more than 20,000 Canadians registered with Global Affairs Canada, including many more living in Lebanon. The latest still is for Canadians to get out while they still can with commercial options, but we are learning more from Minister of National Defence Bill Blair about some of the contingency plans in place, plans that they've been working on behind the scenes for weeks and months, moving assets around the region, and the possibility of this situation deteriorating and the security situation for Canadians and potentially an evacuation airlift if it comes to that point. The Minister of National Defence saying Canada has appropriate authorities from the Lebanese government and other regional partners to make sure it can do what is necessary. Here's more from Minister of National Defence Bill Blair speaking to reporters just a short time ago this morning.
We've been working very closely with allies. We've staged and continue to stage resources in order to respond appropriately. We have the appropriate authorities now from the Lebanese government and from some of our regional partners to make sure that we can do what is necessary. At the same time, we'll be prepared for any eventuality, but we are all working towards maintaining peace and stability in the region.
We also heard from Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly that Canada has increased its diplomatic footprint in Beirut to help Canadians with anything they might need in the meantime if they are staying in Lebanon, despite calls for Canadians to get out of the country while they still can.
Reporting live, CTV's Scott Hurst. Thanks for the update.
Thanks, Michelle.
Pope Francis has kicked off his trip to Central Europe, arriving in Luxembourg today. The pontiff will meet with political leaders as well as the country's priests and nuns. He's likely to speak about Europe's role on the world stage while in Luxembourg and also in Belgium, where he arrives later today and will stay through the weekend.
It has been a sunnier start to the day, and temperature-wise, it only gets nicer as we head into your afternoon. So if you do have outdoor plans, sun protection is still a good idea. The good news, the UV index on the moderate side at a 5, but it's going to get a little humid out there as we step into that second half of our day, even with a more northerly flow to the wind. Coming up, I'll have a full look at your long-range forecast as we step in towards these final few days of September and welcome in October on Tuesday next week.
Well, an absolutely gorgeous day. We knew sunshine was coming.
Yes,
and
we needed it.
Oh, doesn't it make you feel just so much more excited about the day when there's this blue sky?
Absolutely. The drive-in was great, and after the last 3 days, we're ramping up towards the weekend.
Yeah.
Jess, tell me about it.
I got good news. It stays nice. The sunshine really does make a difference after a stretch of kind of overcast, rainy, muggy days. We're settling in now to the end of the week. the beginning of the weekend and really the end of the month with a fantastic forecast. Close enough to seasonal that you don't have to put on those layers just yet. Weather is brought to you by the Presler Law Firm. Injury lawyers you don't pay unless they win. Now, we did have some fog early on this morning, likely some radiation fog out there. We have a warm, moist layer of air and a cooler ground, and that creates the fog. So really and truly, fog at its core is just a cloud on the ground. And it looks really cool from the chopper shot, right, as we kind of started our morning. And that fog usually kind of takes place just after sunrise and then burns off into the early morning hours. Now, as we head throughout the rest of our day, lots of sunshine out there thanks to high pressure, and that will maintain. We're sitting at 21. It feels like 23. Still pretty warm in some portions of northern Ontario. Red Lake, we're almost spot on temperature-wise to be a pair. As we head in towards this afternoon, we'll sit around 23, so still above seasonal, still feeling into that 26 range, into the mid-20s really right across southern Ontario, and it's a great forecast to get out and enjoy the weather without immediately starting to sweat when you walk out the door. As we head in towards this evening, we are not losing a ton of that warmth. We're closer to seasonal, but we're not quite there. We should be at 9 and we'll sit at 13, closer to the seasonal norms through Waterloo, through Peterborough, and out towards Bancroft. Now, we see that system push its way out. The high pressure behind it will make its way in, kind of clearing things out as we head in towards the end of the week. Any of that active weather south of the border will kind of just get blocked and it doesn't reach us. So some good news there. There could be maybe a passing very light shower unrelated to that system as we head into the start of Saturday, but overall, it's nice. For the rest of the day today, not much in the way of cloud cover, so if you do have outdoor plans, a really beautiful afternoon and evening. As we make our way through our Thursday into our Friday, we start off with some sunshine, but then we see the cloud cover push into the afternoon. It doesn't necessarily come with any active weather. It just kind of will cloud over and we won't see that brilliant blue sky to end the day. Stepping in towards the start of our weekend, again, the chance of maybe some spotty showers early in the day on Saturday, but by the lunch hour, a lot of that pushes out, but what is left behind is the cloud. So throughout the end of the week and in towards the weekend, temperature-wise, we are at or just above seasonal. That's the same as we head in towards your Saturday and Sunday. Humidex values still feeling into the mid-20s. Today, tomorrow, they do lessen a little bit heading throughout the weekend, but overall, it stays pretty nice. As we head in towards Monday, lots of sunshine out there, beautiful forecast. As you spend some time outside or if you're recognizing Truth and Reconciliation Day, we're not looking at anything in the way of active weather right now. Into the evening, sitting at 14. We kick off October on Tuesday. That's right, September is done. Nada, out of here, goodbye. But we do have some cloud cover to welcome in a brand new month and the chance of maybe a passing shower as we head in towards Wednesday. But overall, it's not bad as we kind of sign off from the month of September. So we started September off with a lot of rain and a little cooler. We've really gotten through the entire month with quite a nice forecast, lots of sunshine and above seasonal temps, and that doesn't end as we head through our Thursday, our Friday, and in towards the weekend. Sean, Michelle, I'll send things back over to you.
Thank you, Jess. Well, provincial police officers are adding a new mode of transportation to their fleet in some parts of Ontario.
They will be out patrolling on e-bikes. CTV's Scott Miller reports from Bruce County, which is part of the pilot project.
Constable Jason Essery wasn't sure he was going to like patrolling Kincardine on an e-bike instead of a regular bike or cruiser, but the newest patrol vehicle in Bruce County has won him over.
At first I wasn't an e-bike fan and I thought that maybe it might not turn out as well as a regular bike, but I've been pleasantly surprised by their progress and their efficiency.
E-bikes joined the South Bruce OPP patrol pool in June as part of a select group of OPP detachments trying out the new transportation tool for a pilot project. E-bikes can clearly go places cruisers can't and run on a rechargeable battery, not gas. The advantages over a regular bike are that officers can go where they want, faster and with less effort.
When an officer responds to a call or a situation, we prefer them to be ready to deal with that call or situation when they get there. And with an e-bike, they are able to get there without being exhausted as they would maybe with a regular bike.
Community engagement has also increased over the summer, says Essery.
We find that we can engage with the public a lot better. You know, if they see an officer on the street, it's maybe harder for them to stop and talk to you. Whereas if we're riding on a trail or down the street, we can stop easily and speak to the public. And we've actually had several compliments from people who like to be able to engage with us regularly.
The e-bike pilot project runs through December. Essery, for one, would love to see the e-bikes back on patrol next year and for years to come.
We would definitely like to see it continue in the future. Yeah, this year is a trial project year, but I would 100% be willing to see it come on to 2025 and 2026 here.
The pilot project cost approximately $10,000 for the e-bikes and patrol vehicle mounts. In Kincardine, Scott Miller, CTV News.
Still ahead, we'll take you to an eating clinic at Holland Bloorview Kids Rehabilitation Hospital. It's helping children with neurodevelopmental disorders. We'll explain how after the break. Tonight at 6. Frustration overload.
It's not right. It was disappointing.
Who's on the hook
I think they have to take responsibility.
when a power surge fries your TV? Tonight on CTV News at 6. If you have a child in school, you know it's a bit different this year because of the ban on cell phones.
The students aren't so keen on the ban, but one principal has noticed something. He hears the kids actually talking to each other instead of staring into their phones. CTV's Alessia Fieldberg reports from Calgary.
A final text or scroll of social media before entering school has been part of Alberta students' routines for a month now. When the semester started, so did the province's ban on using cell phones in class, a move many parents applaud.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's pretty good. I mean, their attention should be on class, not on their cell phones. So
I think it's great for the kids. They learn through it. When she finishes school, she can call us.
Some junior high and high school students are less enthused, but not too bothered. How do you guys feel about it?
It's okay.
I don't really like it. Like, it's kind of weird. I wish that we could have it in school or even just at lunch or something.
It's reasonable, well, okay, to an extent, because there's a reason they put it in place, but it is a little bit much for some certain things.
I listen to music all the time, and without it, it's really depressing.
I have ADHD and I cannot focus during school, so I need my music.
High use of cell phones and social media have been blamed for affecting kids' ability to focus in cases of cyberbullying. Since the phone ban started, some principals and teachers are seeing kids more dialed into class.
The students appear to be more engaged. I think you see more interaction happening.
At his school, students can't use cell phones, tablets, or music players on campus at lunch either. And that's impacting activities, including more students signing up for intramural sports and clubs.
There's a hum of noise that you now hear, and it's nice to hear that, actually, and you see kids talking to one another. I think we've had less issues at this point in time with bullying or harassment coming through social media.
Alicia Fieldberg, CTV News, Calgary.
We have details on a new comprehensive eating clinic at Holland Bloorview Kids Rehabilitation Hospital.
Eating can be one of the most challenging problems for children with neurodevelopmental disorders. And CTV's Pauline Chan has more on how doctors and parents are trying to help make it easier.
So Baby Bell, sandwich, yogurt, bagel, drink.
I don't want that, Albert!
Despite his protest, Mom Gurpreet Valeri is actually really pleased with 5-year-old Max's progress at this special eating clinic at Holland Bloorview.
We're really excited because this September he's in senior kindergarten now, and he was able to take a lunch to school and 2 snacks, and most days it comes home and the box is empty.
Max's twin Mason is also making progress.
As you can see, he's taller than Max, he's bigger than Max, he's flourishing, he's doing really well.
Rob Valeri describes Mason's diagnosis of ARFID as life-changing. Both boys are on the autism spectrum and have also been diagnosed with avoidant restrictive food intake disorder, or ARFID. For Mason, the worst time was 1.5 years ago when he got his tonsils out.
So he was sick all the time, and he stopped eating even his puree.
ARFID is not the same as picky eating, and the treatment strategies are quite different.
We're talking less than 10 foods, and this could be because of significant sensory issues, significant lack of hunger cues, or fear of eating, such as fear of choking, for example. And it can lead to serious medical consequences.
The patients may have autism, cerebral palsy, or global developmental delay.
Sometimes called as a silent disability, and that's because there are not often visual cues for conditions such as this, and they may not be able to communicate the concerns that they have.
Strategies are tailored to each individual.
One of the goals for the family is to eat out together because they say food is such an important part of our society and culture.
So far, the restrictive eating clinic has seen some 35 children since opening 1 year ago, and while they're only treating internal referrals for now, they hope to share their expertise with other centers. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
It's been 6 years since a law was enacted raising awareness about concussions in amateur sports, and it's named after Rowan Stringer, a 17-year-old Ottawa rugby player who died in 2013 from multiple concussions over a 6-day period. Yesterday, her father spoke at Queen's Park.
Changing the culture of parents, getting them to realize that that next game it might not be as important as you think.
The province has released a report outlining Ontario's progress in addressing 21 recommendations to help protect young athletes. As of this year, those recommendations have now either been implemented or are in the process. Rowan's father now hopes the law will be emulated across Canada.
Cold and flu season is fast approaching, and doctors are urging Ontarians to make sure they're up to date on their vaccinations. There's growing concern about the spread of RSV.
RSV can be a limited 2-week, not happy time, but you generally recover. But in patients at risk, it can lead to severe disease, hospitalization, death in some cases, very much like influenza and COVID. But even more significantly, it can decompensate a patient with pre-existing health conditions, and they leave the hospital in a different state than they entered, requiring supportive care. They can't live independently. And the vaccines are new, but we all understand the COVID rollout of vaccines and how information now changes and technology changes rapidly. So I certainly recommend them to all of my patients at risk.
According to Public Health Ontario, RSV typically causes mild cold-like symptoms that usually begin 2 to 8 days after exposure to the virus.
Canada's fertility rate, which had already been steadily declining, has hit a new record low. Statistics Canada data shows the fertility rate in 2023 was 1.26 children per woman, which is the lowest recorded level since the agency began collecting data. The number of births remained about the same, but there were more women of childbearing age. Canada is now part of the group of lowest low fertility countries that have a rate of 1.3 children per woman or less. The country's population growth over the last few years is entirely due to immigration.
Still to come, Canadian and U.S. stocks traded at record highs today. Details and the rest of your business headlines coming up after the break.
Get Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
It's been more than 2 weeks since federal workers were mandated to be in the office 3 days a week.
Now, the largest public service union says newly revealed documents show the decision wasn't evidence-based. CTV's Natalie Van Roy has more.
The federal government knew when it ordered public servants back to the office 3 days a week, there would be pushback.
I also don't think that the government has done a particularly good job in getting the proper data and or informing the people as to the reasons that they should be going back.
Documents, nearly 800 pages obtained by the Public Service Alliance of Canada through an access to information request, detail how the government had access to numerous studies on hybrid work before making a decision.
They knew flexible work arrangements are more productive. They knew this evidence was out there and they chose to bury it. It just doesn't make any sense. Why would you do it unless it was politically motivated?
In 2022, documents indicate a flexible first approach was recommended. The hybrid work model delivered environmental benefits and created a diverse and geographically distributed talent pool. The research indicated telework should be increasingly accepted as the norm. But PSAC argues the government ignored its own evidence and, concerned with public scrutiny, steamrolled ahead with the back-to-office plan.
The information we found was absolutely shocking, that there's actually a report out there from Stats Canada, 4 years of data to prove that a flexible work arrangement does in fact make workers more productive.
The federal government maintains the new mandated hybrid work arrangements will help with overall organizational performance. Last month, the deputy clerk of the Privy Council said the mandate will be better for employees' careers and create a better work environment. More than 2 weeks in, the new mandate has mixed reviews.
It's been a bit complicated to juggle all of the changes with the back to school routine and the back to the office routine, so it's a bit harder for us to sort that out, but otherwise it's manageable for now.
I think that if you are trying to look for some kind of empirical evidence, it's not there, and it's more political than anything else.
Natalie Van Roy, CTV News.
New rules come into effect today on businesses hiring low-wage temporary foreign workers. Employers are now limited to hiring 10% of their workforce through the program's low-wage stream. If businesses are in an area with higher unemployment rates, they won't be able to hire through the low-wage program at all. There are some exceptions to the above rules, such as for employers in healthcare and construction.
Canadian and U.S. stocks traded at record highs today, boosted by copper mining and semiconductor shares.
Andrew Bellabian on Bloomberg brings us the latest in business.
Hello there. Here are your business headlines. The Toronto Composite Stock Index topped 24,000 again this morning, trading at new record highs, as copper miners continue to surge on hopes for more demand from China. The U.S. S&P 500 index also hit a new record as chip stocks jumped. Micron Technology, the largest U.S. supplier of memory chips, soared 13% after the company provided a strong profit forecast helped by demand for artificial intelligence equipment. Oil slid for a second day, with Saudi Arabia reportedly committed to increasing output in December. West Texas Intermediate crude traded below $68 U.S. a barrel. Crude market observers warn that there is no room for more OPEC plus oil on the market unless nations that are currently producing more than their quota are brought to heel. And finally, metals investors have had a great week. Copper rallied above $10,000 US a ton to hit a 3-month high, and iron ore broke through $100 a ton as China's leaders step up efforts to revive growth. The official Chinese news agency said the Politburo will push for the real estate market to, quote, stop declining. That's the latest in business. I'm Andrew Bell of BNN Bloomberg.
When you shop online, there is the worry that when your package arrives, it could potentially be swiped off your front porch before you get a chance to bring it in.
Another concern is shipping back a parcel that wasn't quite right and hoping it gets where it's supposed to go. CTV's Pat Foran has more in this Consumer Alert.
I was in shock. I didn't know what to do.
Chris Power Arsenault of Collingwood purchased a new iPad with a keyboard in May of this year. She liked it but decided to upgrade to a different model and was told by Apple to get a refund to return the iPad. She went to a UPS store, printed off the return label and sent it back, but
a week went by. I phoned Apple. Apple told me they did not receive the iPad.
Concerned, Chris went back to the courier to find out where the package went.
I went back to the UPS store. They told me they sent it out. There was nothing else they can do.
Both Apple and UPS agreed to investigate and track down the iPad, but in the end, Chris said she was told the package was lost and there would be no refund. She says the missing iPad Pro cost her just over $2,500.
I need my money back. I have proof. I sent it out. I have proof that I have the labels, the tracking numbers.
Apple said it would look into the missing iPad. In a statement, UPS told CTV News, "We are aware of the situation. Our team is diligently working on the ongoing investigation to resolve this matter." When returning a package, ensure you have the correct return label on the outside. A copy of the label should also be included inside the package in case the outside one goes missing. Take photos of the item you're sending, get a tracking number, and keep your receipts. Chris is hopeful the missing iPad can still be recovered as it was purchased on her credit card and she still needs to pay for it.
I want my money back that's owed to me. I returned it. I deserve to have my money back.
Pat Foran, CTV News.
Some new numbers today show that total housing starts in Canada's 6 biggest cities rose 4% in the first half of 2024, nearing the previous record high. That's the headline from the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation Fall 2024 report on housing. Calgary and Edmonton led the country in growth, while housing starts decreased in Toronto, Vancouver, and Ottawa. The report shows the level of new construction, 68,639 units, was the second strongest since 1990. However, adjusted for population size, they were close to historical averages and aren't enough to meet growing demand.
In sports, the Blue Jays managed to win in their final game against the Red Sox.
Fly ball right field. He's hit it well. And it is gone.
Jonathan Clase hit his first career home run for the Jays to pad their lead in the 7th. The Jays beat Boston 6-1 to snap that 5-game losing streak. They have today off before kicking off their final series of the season tomorrow when they host the Miami Marlins. Toronto FC took on the Vancouver Whitecaps for the Canadian Championship last night. It was heartbreak for TFC, losing on penalty kicks 4-2 at BC Place. Toronto dominated possession time and outshot the Whitecaps 7-2, but it wasn't enough. Vancouver hoists the Voyageurs Cup for the 4th time in its history and is now assured a place in next year's CONCACAF Champions League tournament.
Two-time Olympian Maggie McNeil has announced her retirement from competitive swimming. The 24-year-old from London, Ontario, posted the announcement on social media, saying in part, the little girl above would have never dreamed this is where her love of swimming would take her. McNeil was a triple medalist in her Olympic debut in Tokyo in 2020.
In the town referred to as the birthplace of hockey, you will find a piece of history that dates back to the 19th century.
A rink in Windsor, Nova Scotia that's stood the test of time, even as questions persist about its future. Here's CTV's Paul Hollingsworth.
Opening these doors allows you to step back in time to an era of rich hockey history.
It's a landmark is what it is.
The Stannis Street Rink opened in 1897 in a town that lays claim to being the birthplace of hockey.
It's a quintessential old barn. It's a word we like to use when we refer to hockey arenas in Canada, the old barn. This is a barn. The wood smells old, it feels old, but the stories it tells are immense.
It's the oldest indoor arena in Canada.
One of the big stories was the ice.
At the top of the steeple, there was a flagpole. If the flag was flying, it signaled it was cold, and the ice was hockey ready. No flag meant no hockey.
In a lot of games had to be called because it got too slushy.
The last time hockey was played here was more than 60 years ago. The building is now used as a storage facility. There are questions about what the future holds for this old-time arena.
It's not been kept up very well, and to bring it up to standards now going to take a lot of work.
The Windsor Hockey Heritage Society has a long-term vision for this old arena. They want to buy it from the current landlord and turn it into a hockey museum. Hockey historian Danny Dill says it would take a major community-based fundraising campaign for that dream to become a reality.
You could make it a nice hockey shrine, not only for here, but for the whole country.
It's an idea that is music to the ears for the CEO of the Nova Scotia Sport Hall of Fame.
I'm really biased, but you find a way to save this and you find a way to preserve the history.
And celebrate the existence of the 127-year-old Stannis Street Rink. Paul Hollingsworth, CTV News, Windsor, Nova Scotia.
Coming up, a new museum is opening in Japan for fans of Nintendo. Details on the new amusement park when we return.
Fans of Super Mario, The Legend of Zelda, and Game Boy will soon be able to gain insight into one of the world's most renowned video game makers. A new museum by Nintendo is opening in Japan next week. It showcases the company's history and underscores its many evolutions, like the iconic Wii console and handheld Game Boy. Visitors will also see lesser-known products such as baby strollers and printers it developed in a push from Nintendo to expand beyond its core gaming business. It could be tough to get in, though. The wait list is reportedly 2 months long already. It hasn't even opened yet.
Jessica, what's your Nintendo game? What's the one?
I was definitely Mario Brothers. I like that one a lot. And anything on the Game Boy. Like, you had to, like, just kind of sit there and, oh, man.
The portable stuff.
Yeah, I'm on the go all the time.
Mario Kart for me. That's the
Okay.
one.
Mario.
That's where I live. The Mario Kart where they're driving.
You're racing?
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, I throw bananas everywhere.
I'm
Don't do that in
unbeatable.
real life.
Unbeatable.
Listen, you want to bet?
Oh, okay. to the green room. Yeah.
I take chess.
No, I'm just saying I'm very competitive. It is going to be a beautiful day, so if you want to play video games inside or outside, it'll be fantastic. We are looking at high pressure moving back into the forecast, clearing things out, making for a stunning Thursday ahead of us. Not much in the satellite radar picture for us here in the GTA. Some lingering showers to eastern Ontario and southern Quebec, but for the most part, we are staying nice and dry. We're at 21. It feels like 23, a little warmer in towards Windsor and out through Niagara, but overall, we're kind of hovering at or just above seasonal. We step into the end of the week, the final few days of September. Again, lots of sunshine to round things out Friday. A little cloud cover this weekend, but overall, it's not too bad. I'll take it.
We'll take it. And that's CTV's News at Noon. Remember, you can get Toronto's breaking news all day long on CP24 and on our website, ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Jessica Smith and all of us here, have a wonderful afternoon. I'm Michelle Dubé.
And I'm Sean Leathong. Be sure to join us later for CTV News at 5 and 6.